Is Doug Ford trying to help Mark Carney win a majority with a snap spring election? Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. Front page of the Globe and Mail on Monday morning. It reads as follows: Ford floated idea of snap federal election in private talks with Carney. They go on to cite a number of anonymous sources describing talks between the two men over the past few weeks, including, well, discussions on the telephone, where it's just the two of them, and discussions at the First Minister's meeting in Ottawa at the end of January. It describes how Ford said worked for him going early to the polls helped Ford win a third majority government that will take his government's life beyond Donald Trump's second term as president. And that's how Ford pitched it. Problem for Carney is he kind of did a similar pitch in March and April of 2025, and it didn't work. He fell short of a majority. So now he is thinking of a snap spring election. The Liberals are clearly preparing the ground for that. The speech in Davos, poking Donald Trump in the eye, in my view, that was always done as a way to try and get the reaction from President Trump that he got. Why would he do that? Well, because he knew that Trump would react angrily. And when he made bad comments about Canada, well, Carney's voting base would turn and say, see, we need to rally behind the leader. His polling numbers would go up. That's exactly what happened. Whether you're talking Main Street, Leger, Abacus, doesn't matter. Polling numbers for Mark Carney and the Liberals went up. And so that makes it seem more plausible, more palatable, that the Liberals would go to the polls early. You look at his decision to enhance the GST rebate, call it the Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit, and double a payment coming this July, as long as Liberals, of course, are reelected if we go to the polls in the springs. So many reasons that the Liberals are setting the groundwork. Look at how they're describing the Conservatives as being obstructionist in Parliament, even as the Conservatives attempt to fast-track that GST enhancement, the rebate enhancement, as they try and say, let's move bail reform along quicker, as they try and help the Liberals pass their agenda in areas where they agree, the Liberals are calling them obstructionist. Why? To set the narrative that says, this doesn't work. Parliament's not working. We need a mandate. So Carney's been asking Doug Ford about what he would do. Ford says he went early and it worked for him. For every time that somebody cites Ontario's former premier, David Peterson, that going early will mean you'll be punished by voters at the polls, no, that's not the case. For every one Peterson, there's Jean Chrétien doing it twice. Stephen Harper going early and getting a majority mandate in 2011, going early and getting his second minority in 2008. Justin Trudeau, well, he went early and only got a minority in 2021, but he still won the election. So yes, there are risks for Carney, but don't expect voters to punish him. It's just whether they see him living up to the promise that he made last time, that he could deal with Donald Trump. Does he do that again? Potentially. But there's also another risk at factor here. And that is that if Mark Carney and the Liberals force an early election, and there is a Liberal majority government that is driven by Eastern Canada, Eastern and Central Canada, meaning the Atlantic provinces, Quebec and Ontario, and Alberta, where the Liberals are less popular than they were a year ago, Alberta feels left out, that burgeoning separatist movement, it's going to catch steam. They have not delivered on what Alberta has asked for. They have not delivered on a pipeline. They have had talks of pipelines and memorandums of understanding, but they haven't moved forward with major projects in any significant way. And if they get a majority government based on these premises, I am predicting that Alberta's separatist sentiment will only increase. That's a real danger for Mark Carney. Not whether he gets his majority or minority, it's what it does to national unity in this country. And don't forget, Quebec has an independence-minded government likely coming in with an election this October. There are so many factors at play. Doug Ford's advice to Mark Carney of going early might work on, well, one set of voters, especially in the east and central part of the country, but they might cause problems with others. These are some of the things the Liberals are going to have to think about before they pull the trigger, which is what I still think they will do this spring. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.